From a piss couch to a crumpled up futon, it's the Legends podcast. I'm Jeremy. I got Dylan and Noah, aka Quality Autism, and aka John Sadler.
No one knows that reference anymore. No one even knows who the original John Sadler was
It's
anymore.
you. It's you.
Maybe he still watches these because he used to watch
No,
all of these
he
podcasts.
hates me. He probably hates. I remember Tristan or someone messaged me and said, John Sadler really doesn't like you talking about him. I couldn't even tell you what John Sadler actually sounds like anymore. I have to listen to Binox Nest again.
Yeah, for the 2 episodes he was on.
Well, one of them I was on, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Minox 19 and 19 and a half.
Oh, that's right.
He's on that one. Literally the worst podcast I've ever been on in my entire life.
It was great. What are you talking about? It was quality content. I mean, it was terrible for everyone that was actually on the podcast, but to listen to it, it was fantastic.
I edited God knows what out of there. Rest in peace, Tim, but he made it so fucking difficult to edit. There were so many bad jokes, like just mean-spirited, awful things that I had to edit from him and Tristan. Oh, it took forever for it to even come out. And then we did one with me complaining about those episodes. And then it didn't come out for like a year. And then Tristan banned me from Minox Nest, although I still have access to the Minox Nest YouTube channel, FYI. I'm still a host of Minox Nest. Just saying. So I was the only one who would fucking edit for them.
Well, hey, we still have this podcast that we do once every 10 years.
Are you clipping your fingernails, Dylan?
What? No.
Oh no, it's my cat. I thought you were clipping your fingernails and I was about to yell at you.
Hold on, where's the coin? Where's the coin?
Get out of here with that.
Oh my god, we have Matt Wilkins in chat.
Oh yeah, he says we should do a Minox Nest podcast. Jacob Harris says, "What's up, boys? What's up, dude? We're here. We're here.
To talk about collecting.
Talk about collecting. As you can see here, my lovely YA and digest comic collection. I got all sorts of crap in here. It's mostly Star Wars now because the cats, mainly Cleo, our kitten, like to make biscuits on my new Jedi Order books. And I'm like, I either got to throw her outside or I'm going to have to move things around. So I had to basically move my shelves around so I don't have I don't have a complete Star Wars shelf anymore. I had to move all my big books so she couldn't climb on top of the books to hide from the other cat. So that was my thing. So I think we just go around. Noah has a weird time collecting because he lives in Germany. And not everything got printed in German.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got all sorts of weird things there that are going to be different than how I collected and how Dylan collected. This, Dylan, as I recall, you mainly stuck with mass market paperbacks.
Yes, I did that because they were cheap and I could get everything.
And you could buy Legos back when you did that.
But now, I eventually want to try to get into hardcover collecting, but I don't have the shelf for it.
It's hardcover collecting is a pain, especially now. Especially post Rise of Skywalker, it is really difficult to collect hardcovers, especially the what are they called? The book club size hardcovers. Those are getting scarce. Sorry, I'm getting over COVID too. I had COVID for like a week and a death in the family. It's been a real wild time. But yeah, I'll start. So my big thing, I had to basically collect my collection twice.
Hmm.
So I got better at it the second time. Um my big tips are this: buy lots, even if things are duplicates, buy them, especially when it comes to YA stuff, because YA stuff is almost always annihilated. If you're lucky, you could get like, let's see here. I got this Last of the Jedi, and this is pristine. This was
Ooh.
never read. You don't often find them like that. Well, you find Last of the Jedi like this, but any Jedi Apprentice, Junior Jedi Knights, things like that, where they were like big series when they came out. Well, I'll just put that there. They tend to be beaten up. Galaxy of Fear. That's like the primary one, where those are so old and they're annihilated typically. I have my Galaxy of Fear is pretty beaten up. Library books, if you can go to any sort of library sale, those are great. You get like interesting variants. I'm going to. I should have prepped for this. You get things like this one, like this. This is one of the Clone Wars, Filoni Clone Wars digest-sized comics, but it's in a library binding. And I have several of these now. They're fun to grab when you can get them. Typically, I recommend going to a library sale for it because there'll be a good deal there. Online, these can be pretty expensive because these were only made primarily for elementary school libraries, but you can find them in public libraries too. And these are nice. I know that there's several of these Filoni Clone Wars digest sizes ended up in these, as well as I have one of the Clone Wars Adventures. I can't reach it right now. In this binding, I've seen the X-Wing book series in this binding. Some of the Boba Fett YA stuff I've seen in this binding too. The first 6 Galaxy of Fear, and the Clone Wars Secret Missions. I've seen all those that way. I don't have them all like that because that can get pretty expensive. Like if you're on eBay and getting these, typically, unless the buyer doesn't know what they have, they get expensive.
Mhm.
But I recommend these if you can get them over like the Scholastic paperbacks, because Scholastic paperbacks typically are falling apart. Also, if you're going for book club size hardcovers, those are harder to get than standard size hardcovers like the Del Rey ones, especially because a lot of the book club stuff was only ever printed in hardcover through the book club. So like your Coruscant Knights, your Jedi Academy, Last of the Jedi, actually not Last of the Jedi, The Last Jedi, the Michael Reeves book, not the film. Shadow Games, Scourge, Black Fleet Crisis, Corellian Trilogy, most of New Jedi Order. In fact, most of Legacy of the Force. They were only printed in hardcover in the book club sizes. So what I did with those is I actually befriended a guy on eBay, and he sold me most of his collection at once. It's hard to do. I had a bunch of insurance money, and he gave me a lightsaber on top of it. But like, if you often shop, because I typically sell, I had a lot of duplicates from rebuilding my collection. I've been selling them on eBay. A lot of times when you're on eBay, you can build up a rapport with people you're selling to or you're buying from. and then you can get deals that way.
Mhm.
Just don't be a turd about it, and just be nice. And another big thing is, what do you want to collect specifically?
Yes.
It's going to be a really miserable time for you if you say, oh, I'm going to be like Matt Wilkins and I'm going to collect everything. I know Matt's probably going to be in and out watching this, but Matt has been collecting since Heir of the Empire came out. All of his stuff he bought as it came out, with a few exceptions. Collecting like that, most people don't do that. Most people can't do that. I mean, I got a pretty solid collection, but I don't collect the little kid stuff. I may at some point, but that's a whole nother thing. That's something I'm not good at collecting, because those are typically colored in and just wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
But Noah, what do you do typically for collecting, since you got some of your stuff you have to import? I know that.
Yeah. So how I do it isn't really interesting. I mostly order through Amazon because Star Wars books in Germany in general, no one cares. Like, they get translated mostly, they get published, but it's not like there's a giant fan base. I think I may actually be the biggest Legends book YouTuber, which is extremely sad to think about. And yeah, because people just don't really know about the books from the 90s, because the Bantam era books never got like reprints really. They came out in paperback, some of them came out in hardcover, not a lot. And I think by the 2000s, once they were like out of print, they are out of print. And they only were available in ebook format in like 2014. So yeah. And the more recent stuff from the Del Rey era, like let me think, the Fate of the Jedi books, for example, or like Crucible or Mercykill, they are still available, like on Amazon, for example, which is the biggest one. But once they are out of stock, they're not gonna get reprinted. I think the only books that are getting reprinted are Republic Commando, the Thrawn trilogy, Darth Plagueis, Darth Bane, and Kenobi. And all the rest gone.
So is that just Germany then, or is that like all of, because obviously Austria and parts of Switzerland also speak German, and they would have German prints of these. Are you also expanding your collecting to those countries as well?
Lost all sound.
You've lost all sound? Oh dear.
Sure.
Who lost sound? Did I lose sound? Did he lose sound?
I think he lost sound, because I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Chat,
I can hear both of you.
Can you hear yeah, I heard him too.
Chat, help please. It wouldn't be a stream with me on it if there wasn't like technical difficulties.
But yeah, no, as I was saying, do you broaden to like all German like regions of Austria and Switzerland as well? Do you look there for those printings, or are they more or less the same pretty much?
I think they are more or less the same. I haven't really looked into it. I know like for Austria, like the books, I don't have an example right now, but the books, they say the price in euros and like the Austrian, how much it costs in Austrian money. So I think they sell the exact same books in Austria as well. And it's not like there's like big differences, I would say.
I was wondering, because again, Europe has gone through an interesting thing, especially in recent days, with the publishers essentially losing the rights to publish Legends books and then them changing hands. Like I know France went through a bit where they weren't getting any new Legends prints until I think it was Panini bought them and got the rights. I think Italy as well had something around that. I know there was a big scare in 2016, 2017 that they'd be printing Legends books anymore, because that publisher, I think it was Arrow Books, something happened with them with the license.
Yeah, this reminds me of the comic side of things. But first off, with the books, I do own all of the Legends mass market paperbacks by Del Rey. I just decided to buy them all in English because it's impossible to get them in German. Like the secondhand copies, I have some people I know who try to collect all of it in German paperback or hardcover. Extremely expensive. Like, especially like some of the YA stuff, that's just as expensive in German as it is in English. Maybe even more so.
There's something I want to pull up here that Maxwell Unash said. This is a great one to do. His local bookstore sold the trade paperbacks at 50 cents each. That's a great way of collecting. I just did mine in hardcover, so it's a little difficult, but local bookstores, used bookstores, thrift stores. I found a few of my Star Wars books in thrift stores. Those are a good deal, especially if you get like a buy one get one free deal.
Because usually places like that, like if you're buying it online, the person selling it to you, they know what it is, they know what it's worth, and they're going to get what it's worth. But at
Not
brick and mortar
always.
places, well, not always, obviously, but at brick and mortar, it's usually the case that especially if you're going for something really rare, if you find a listing for it online, the person selling you it knows what it is. But if you find it out in the wild, as I think we often call it, in like in a store or someplace, oftentimes they just don't know. They just have it amongst other things. So it's a really good treasure trove. It can be, depending on how much you're driving around looking for things, more expensive than buying it online. So there is that aspect you have to factor in as well, of both your time and how much you're actually spending traveling, going to all these bookstores in your area to get things, which a lot of people, when they think of collecting, they don't really think of that aspect of it.
And Maxwell has another one I wanted to bring up because he's had contradicting things. He disagrees about buying in lots. Complete lots of YA books tend to be more expensive. That is true, especially if you have your like Junior Jedi Knights and Galaxy of Fear, or Missions and the Episode 1, Episode 2 Adventures. Those books, not the game books necessarily, but the story books for those, really expensive. I'm missing most of Missions, and I only have one left of Episode 1 Adventures to collect and 2 of Episode 2 Adventures. But I'm not, sometimes you have to give yourself like a limitation. For instance, I can't bring myself to buy a single YA book for more than $15. I won't do it. Which collecting Junior Jedi Knights that way was a pain. I have so many duplicate YA books I've been selling because it was to get a Junior Jedi Knight book in there or a Galaxy of Fear book. Because sometimes the inverse of that is sometimes you'll have sellers that are selling, they just sell all sorts of kids' books. Like they just sell whatever. And they'll bundle things together like Star Wars, and it'll be like, oh, we have a couple Jedi Quest books, a couple Jedi Apprentice books, some Decide Your Destiny stuff from the clone, from like TCW, like all this stuff mixed together. And it'll even be like new canon stuff too. Like I've had several of those, and you just end up with a pile of like a bunch of things you don't necessarily want. For instance, you're almost always, for some reason, guaranteed to have one of the journals, the Scholastic journals they did back in like the late 90s, because those are not worth anything at all. They're just retellings of like events. So I have a few of those. They do add a little EU if you're a completionist and you're really getting into the weeds of things. But typically, I think some of those, like the Darth Maul journal, is if in the Wrath of Darth Maul Ryder Wynnum book. So, and they did some of those in those, like the life of Obi-Wan, the adventure of Luke Skywalker. There's a Darth Vader one. Those are reprints of children's stuff, like obscure children's stuff that Ryder Wynnum wrote. Those are a great deal to find because you'll avoid certain things with that, certain expensive stuff, and they do add a little extra things, I think, that weren't in the original books that they're based on. But I want to talk comics here as
Good.
well because comics are a pain. Even I will say this: we haven't mentioned the Essential Legends collection. It's a great way to collect the books with the nice new size. I know Noah was complaining to me earlier today that he hates the size. I didn't get to say that, like, read 5 reviews and Bryant's Nerd Pub, aka Adam from Paper Movies, and I really like that size. I just find it comfortable to read with it being a little bigger. I'm not a big fan of the mass market paperback. I'm just
Okay,
not.
can I explain this? I don't.
Well,
The
you don't like
reason,
it because of, I know why, but you can just explain
yeah,
it.
the reason I don't like it is because the format, it doesn't fit in with the stuff I already own, like the mass market paperbacks. Which, by the way, when I first got those, I was also not a big fan of them because compared to German books, they are really, I can't call it anything else, adorable. Like they are really small and they just feel like they're gonna fall apart at any minute. And yeah, I mean, the Essential Legends, they are nice, and the size wouldn't annoy me if the rest of my collection had the same size. That's just, I wanted to look uniform.
Yeah, that Revan just brings up another good point that the mass
Yes.
market paperbacks are like twice as expensive. Sorry, the Essential Legends collections are like twice as expensive as the normal paperback, and
Mhm.
in for all intents and purposes, they are still paperbacks, so they're not going to have the same value as a hardcover would, which I think is another often people don't think this in collecting, but collectibles actually, generally speaking, especially at the higher end, they retain their value very well. So if you ever get disinterested in the thing that you're collecting, when you take the time to actually spend on the higher quality, more valuable stuff, like if we're talking about books, the hardcover books, when you go, if you ever in the position where you go and try to sell that, you will get a lot better return on that investment than you would have had you have gone the cheap way, like I did with Star Wars and getting mass market paperbacks.
Oh yeah, no, I always joke with my girlfriend that it's our nest egg because I'll tell the story. For those of you who don't know, my house burned down in a wildfire here in California, and I lost all but my copy of Courtship of Princess Leia that was signed by Dave Wolferton. It's the only book I got to save. And I rebuilt my collection, but my collection, when filing, because we sued PG&E, like everyone sued PG&E because their incompetence caused a wildfire. My Star Wars collection alone was valued at $50,000. Like this stuff, and it just keeps going up in price. I didn't pay $50,000 for it. A good chunk of it was gifted to me the first time around because my parents were big into collecting Bantam, and then the prequels came out and they just stopped caring. They bought a book here or there, but they just gave me their hardcovers. But I want to talk comics because, like, Dark Horse stuff, it's a pain to collect. The Epic collections are great and all, but they don't stay in print.
No. They are gone
And-
immediately.
and they go for a pretty penny on eBay. I just sold Legacy Epic Collection Volume 2 for $150. I had to ship it to Canada, which is expensive, but yeah, like they're very expensive unless you're buying digitally, which we haven't talked about buying digitally. So I honestly recommend for comic collecting
Mhm.
because the omnibuses are taking forever to come out. And those are like $125 a piece retail value. I have all the EU ones, with the exception of the UK Comics one, because I'm pretty sure it's in the third Marvel Years omnibus. But I might buy it because I want to. I haven't decided yet. I have the space for it. But like the omnibuses keep being pushed back. This is something this is one of the main reasons I wanted to do a Legends podcast. They just pushed back the New Republic Omnibus Volume 1 to January. It was supposed to come out in July. And then it was supposed to come out in September. Then it was supposed to come out in November. Now it's January. They haven't even announced any new ones, which has me a little worried. Because usually we would start seeing pre-orders up for those by now. But like Marvel's just pushing back all their omnibuses, and I'm not sure why. Which when reading the with an omnibus, it can be a pain to actually read them. So I honestly double dip and I get them digitally as well. Because just for convenience sake, because you don't want to take, if your oil's getting changed, you don't want to take one of the big omnibuses to the the Valvoline.
Yeah, that's actually another great reason for digital, because especially with comics, it is incredibly easy to damage them while reading them.
Yeah.
Whereas digital, it's at like my take on the comics collecting is that physical collection is for the shelf and to look nice. Digital is to actually read them.
And they're good reference points. Like I pulled down my Old Republic omnibus, the one with all the KOTOR comics in it, just to reference something. They're
Mhm.
great reference points. It's like the same as like a guidebook.
Mhm.
Reading a guidebook's a pain because they're so big.
Right.
I talked about, in my opinion, mass market paperbacks. I don't like reading them because they're a little too small for me. I don't like reading the big guides unless they're like the DK guides, because those are really light. But like reading an omnibus is a pain, although it's really nice to look at and page through occasionally because the oversized art, it's just beautiful typically. Unless, I mean, there's some Star Wars comics where the art's trash.
Mhm.
Some of the Clone Wars Digest comics have some very trash art in them. Some of the Tales comics have some really trash art, which that's another thing. If you're collecting Epic Collections or the omnibuses, the Tales comics are split up in weird ways and are sprinkled throughout.
Mhm.
Because I'm almost certain someone who makes Epic Collections watches Matt Wilkins' Matt's Expanded Universe. Because like not the first wave of them, but afterwards, they kind of follow Matt's Expanded Universe and how they're sprinkled in.
Yeah. I noticed this with the Epic Collections for like Legacy Volume 4, which has all of the Anya Solo comic storyline.
Mhm.
They throw in one Tales comic and one comic from Visionaries, which doesn't no, 2 stories actually from Visionary, which don't have a story because they are pretty much just artwork. But now, and this is just a little fun fact, because the Epic Collection on the back, it always says, oh, this is set here and here, these stories.
Mhm.
Because it says, oh, the stories in this volume take place over 100 years after Return of the Jedi. Those 2 Visionary stories are now canonically confirmed to take place 100 years after the films.
Yeah.
Wikipedia actually listed them as taking place there now. It's amazing.
Well, Visionaries was never supposed to be canon, but
Tell
Dave
that to
Filoni
Wikipedia.
put Darth Maul in TCW, and it made it all canon. We can't go one episode without complaining about TCW.
We were talking about TCW being bad before we
I
even started
know. I went on
recording.
a full rant so I wouldn't have to talk about TCW and the new story group, and any of it.
So let's continue talking about the comics, because that's a good topic. Because
Yeah.
collecting comics, as you said, is painful. And ask me as a German, it's even worse.
Yeah,
When
you
I
have that weird set where they all are numbered.
Oh yeah, okay, that's an awesome thing. Okay, first off, a little backstory. When I started collecting Star Wars, I bought all of the Timothy Zahn books, secondhand copies, because I've heard he's the best author and I read all of his stuff. Then I was like, I enjoy this, I want to branch out. But I can't afford the rest because, like I said, secondhand copy is very expensive. And so my brother's girlfriend at the time gave me her like Kindle ebook reader. And then I was like, oh, this is neat. And then I could buy the books digitally, and only afterwards I would get them in like the English paperbacks, because I want them on my shelf.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to start collect comics at all at first, because collecting them in German, impossible. Like, just impossible. You can't even find secondhand copies for a lot of the stuff. Definitely not cheap. The stuff that you can find is mostly expensive. But they started doing a comic collection, the publisher Panini, which Dylan mentioned before. And I think it started in 2016 and ran until 2020 or 2021. And I bought all of them, and that's a couple €1,000, but it was a good opportunity because they reprinted a lot of Dark Horse. Not all of it, but a lot. I think the only bigger stories that are missing are the Old Republic, like those cash grab tie-in comics, and Knight Errant. And a bunch of like Tales and Dawn of the Jedi is missing. And the second half of X-Wing, which was never translated into German anyway. So, but yeah, it's 120 hardcovers, just collecting all the Dark Horse stuff, because they didn't have the rights anymore for the original Marvel comics. And originally, it was going to go up until 80 hardcovers. But it was so successful, they went until 120. And apparently, according to the people who run the Facebook page at least, they weren't allowed to do any more after 120. Apparently, that was the end of the contract, because they would have continued if they were allowed to. But apparently, Disney said no. Which I want to point out. They didn't say, oh, our deal with Lucasfilm said stop at 120. They said Disney doesn't want us to continue any further. Our contract is up. And that's they do the same like the Epic collections, where they put Tales comics just randomly in, which I'm fine with here, because I'm just glad to have these comics in German at all, because they will not get reprinted. Not for a very long time, maybe in 10 years again.
There's another hardcover set I want to talk about. It's one I don't have. I used to have one of them, but I don't have any of them anymore because they're kind of expensive, which are the 30th anniversary Dark Horse Star Wars hardcovers. and it was just a selection of different Star Wars stories, starting with the Frida Nad uprising and ending with Legacy Volume 1 Broken. And it's just a selection throughout. Like you had Splinter of the Mind's Eye, Boba Fett Death, Lies, and Treachery, the Jango Fett and Zam Wessel comics, a couple of the Republic comics were thrown in, Jedi versus Sith, Darth Maul, the original Darth Maul miniseries. I'm trying. Crimson Empire was in there. Like those, they look really cool, but they're typically pretty expensive. Especially the ones that haven't been put in Epic collections yet. Another one that's become pretty expensive are the old Dark Horse paperback omnibuses of Star Wars comics. Which I have a couple of them. I have Tales of the Jedi that way. But those are expensive. You're going to be paying a couple $100 a pop for some of those. Others, not so much. I think Droids and Ewoks is still pretty cheap. But back in the day, Dark Horse pretty much put everything into omnibuses. After a while, it was one of the nice things they did. They started with X-Wing Rogue Squadron. Then they did Tales of the Jedi. Then they did all the Republic comics, pretty much. So I think they did Dark Times, Knights of the Old Republic. They did Droids. They did Droids and Ewoks. They did the Marvel ones. Trying to think. Oh, they did these ones called Wild Space. And the Wild Space, that was just random stuff, especially Wild Space Volume 2. They had like Tales of the Pod Racers, which were fruit roll-up comics from back in the day. They put those in.
Man.
We got a couple of good ones
Right
here.
outside the U.S.
Rest in peace if you're trying to buy outside the US. Yeah. Import fees suck. I've come across that with other stuff I collect. Like I sometimes have to import Blu-rays from Japan. Like the oh gosh, who directed Dawn of the Dead, Noah?
Which one? Dawn of the Dead, the original?
The original.
George Romero.
George Romero's movie Martin, you can't get it in the US. I had to import a Blu-ray from Japan. And I paid like $60. And it looks like a VHS rip. Like it's just terrible. But yeah, no, importing fees, that's just something that goes with the territory when you're with like media like this. It just happens.
Revanchist, if you're that close to the US, can't you just like what is it, like rent out like a parcel box in Buffalo that you can just drive to and pick up there? That way you don't have to pay the import fees. Because I think you can do that.
That would be dope. I know a lot of Canadians that buy land in Montana
For that reason.
Well, they live there in the summer.
Oh, okay.
They summer in Montana, and they do all of their medical stuff. Because there's a lot of like cash only clinics in Montana. That's a thing. I know this is getting into the weeds, but I know several, like, they don't take insurance. You just pay cash for things. If you're into that, which that's just weird on so many levels and kind of sketch. It's like if you went to South America to get new kidneys, you know? Weird.
People here who go to Tijuana to get dental work done.
I knew someone who got literally went to Mexico to get his stomach pumped. And like,
Yeah, actually a guy at work did that too.
just and like came back like 3 months late, missed 3 months of school. We were like in 8th grade, and he looked half dead. I'm like, dude, I won't say his name on here for the sake
Yeah.
of privacy. He was a cool dude. I'm like, what happened? He's like, oh, my stomach got fucked up. I had like blockage, so we went to Mexico and got it removed.
Back to collecting though, I am actually a huge advocate for doing research before you get into anything, and
Yes.
actually like planning out what you want to do. And actually, and this is going to be a very controversial take, but I highly recommend do your research, plan out what you want to get, and figure out what is the most expensive thing you are going to have to get, and go for that first. Get that out of the way first, because that does a lot of things. It makes it so that you don't have like 90% of the collection and you're just like, but I still got to drop like $600 on this thing. But then it sets the stage for the rest of your collection, because one thing we haven't talked about that much is like condition. Being for some people condition matters, other people it doesn't. But when you're talking about the very expensive things, the better and better condition that it is, the much more expensive it gets. So having a collection that is all like one type of condition and then going for that expensive thing at the end can actually be very difficult to finding what that is in that condition. But if you start from there, where it's like, okay, this is the condition that I got. Like, again, we're talking about comics, for example. Tales of the Jedi being the hardest one to get, usually. Okay, I've got Tales of the Jedi. I've got it in this condition. The rest of my comic collection has to be at least that condition.
Yeah.
You already have that standard, and you've already gotten rid of the big one. It just all becomes easier from there. So that's my very basic tips to anyone who's not into collecting yet, but wants to get in. Do your research, figure out what you want, figure out how expensive it's going to be, and go for the big ticket items first.
I will second this, because when I started collecting again, I tackled New Jedi Order and Legacy of the Force first. I also inadvertently I met the seller and I became pretty close for a while, and he gave me a good deal on the Jedi Apprentice, Jedi Quest, Last of the Jedi, as well as some other things like if you're in the US, they never printed the Karen Miller Star Wars books in hardcover, or Karen Travis's No Prisoners in hardcover. Typically, but they were printed in hardcover in the UK under the Century imprint. Those are incredibly expensive. Incredibly. I've seen them go from anywhere from $200 to $400 a piece. Because you typically have to import them in. I was fortunate this guy had 3 of them. I got them around the same time. I also got Coruscant Knights, The Last Jedi, and Shadow Games. I'm trying to think what else I got. Oh, I got Yoda Dark Rendezvous and MedStar as well. Took them all out first, because those are a pain to get. Especially Shadow Games, most of Legacy of the Force, most of New Jedi Order now is a pain. It didn't used to be. When I started collecting Star Wars hardcovers, New Jedi Order, even the book club exclusives, weren't a pain, except for Traitor. Traitor is always tedious to find in hardcover. Because Traitor and Dark Journey were individual book club size hardcovers that weren't collected, because typically the New Jedi Order stuff would be collected in two book sets or 3 book sets.
Because they were all the ones that came out in paperback were usually duologies or trilogies.
Yeah,
except for those 2.
Oh, and Final Prophecy.
Hmm.
Final Prophecy, but Final Prophecy's always. I've personally, the 2 times I had to look for it, it was pretty easy to find those. I actually found Vector Prime for $1 in a bookstore, I think a thrift store. But like getting those big purchases out of the way, whether it's comics or novels, but pick one or the other is
Mhm.
my thing, and then focus on the other one that doesn't matter as much to you later.
Yeah.
For me, it was getting the novels because this was before Essential Legends, and like the Epic collections were pretty easy to get back then. So I pick up like one of those a month, that sort of thing. Although now they're a pain. Good luck finding them. Another thing I want to bring up is protecting your
Yes.
books. Investing in library sleeves is a great thing to do. If they're paperbacks, bagging and boarding them, or I don't recommend collecting single issues. I should just throw that out there. Single issue comics are a pain to store. I have a handful of them because they were only ever came out in single issues. Like, I have. Well, this is a weird one. Tales of the Clone Wars, Volume 1. This is a collection of Filoni web comics. You could only buy this at San Diego Comic-Con in 2008 or 9. But on the back, this is a free comic book of Jindy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars that was never collected in the digest sizes. And to my knowledge, you can only get it as the single issue from Free Comic Book Day. Weird. But for the most part, most things ended up being collected in the omnibuses that Dark Horse did. Eventually, because back in the day, they were weird about trades and numbering them. Scott Johnson says it was 2010. It was early on in the Filoni Clone Wars stuff. But there's more like web comics and stuff. Good luck finding that. That's a whole different beast. I don't think we'll get into that so much with finding things online.
Can we quickly address Jacob Ayer's comment from earlier?
Yeah, where
He has the theory that the Epic collections get delayed so much because of the paper shortage, and the priority is in old Marvel stuff and not Star Wars.
fair enough.
Possible?
That's an interesting
maybe?
theory. If this hadn't been going on since Marvel got the rights back in 2015.
Yeah. I would agree with the heart of the omnibuses that's probably a problem. But the thing is, it's not just that. Like they delayed the Predator. There's supposed to be a Predator omnibus that came out last month. They've delayed the Aliens omnibuses 3 and 4. But these are the things that seem to sell better than like the old Marvel stuff. I don't know. That'd be something. Dylan's the numbers guy. We'd have to do that in another follow-up episode.
I don't know if I can find those numbers. I don't know if they're public. I don't know if the comic industry even makes the sales numbers public these days.
They probably don't because they're a dying industry. The big
No.
two are slowly killing themselves.
It's like back in the day with Dark Horse when like Randy Stradley said like, "Oh, Invasion, it ended on a good note. This was a good time to end it." And in reality, like, it didn't make any money. Like, it sold horribly, and they canceled it.
God.
We
talked-
need
Had it
like a
ended.
stream just on Randy Stradley, unless you
We
want
could-
this one
we
to go on
did.
for another hour. Like,
We did a Legends episode about the rise and fall of Dark Horse.
I didn't
but
think
did
we
we
got-
talk about all the Randy Stradley?
I don't think we went into Randy Stradley specifically. I think we just
No.
talked about the eras and
We did, but we talked about that things went south with
Mhm.
Dark Horse. Like after all the war miniseries, things really
But I would say it's like 2005. Like I told you, Randy Stradley's idea, hey, let's cancel every currently running comic series and restart, basically. And that gave us Legacy and Knights of the Old Republic, as well as Dark Times and Rebellion. Which that explains why Empire became Rebellion, because they canceled it and then just rebooted.
But it was literally the same storyline.
Yeah. Just like Dark Times, more or less.
Yeah.
Was supposed to be
Dark Times, you didn't have like the Quinlan Voss story was done.
Yeah, but it has the main character was introduced in the last issues of Republic, so and Kirk shows up, so there's a connection.
And then, but like at the end there, you had your Purge comics, you had your Darth Vader minis, you had, we've never talked about this, but Rebel Heist.
What is there to talk about?
There is, but like it was like an attempt to have another series with the main characters during the Rebellion era.
A mini series, thank God, and an ongoing.
We had Darth Maul comics. There were TCW tie-ins because TCW got canceled.
One of them was written by Tom Taylor, who also wrote Invasion, and he brought TCW elements from his comic back into Invasion. We have TCW connections in New Jedi Order now.
Not surprising. We had Brian Wood Star Wars, which if you want your comic to suck, you hire Brian Wood to write it.
I know we definitely talked about Brian Wood in that Dark Horse podcast.
Well, I mean, it wasn't even canon. That's something we didn't bring up because I don't think we knew that at the time. It was never meant to be canon. Which Noah and I talked privately about this with Matt Wilkins, but with that being said, does that mean that Invasion's not canon either?
Or do you mean the Empire and Rebellion books?
Well, there's the Empire and Rebellion books, yeah, because those tie into Brian
Well,
Wood's.
in a way, because as I learned recently, Martha Wells did an interview where she said, like, in terms of continuity, she was given the storyline for the Brian Wood Star Wars run to make sure her book doesn't contradict it. Which means if Brian Wood stuff is non-canon, and she was told to coordinate her book with a non-canon storyline, it means her book could also be said to be non-canon. And same would go for Honor Among Thieves.
I haven't read either yet, but I'll have to keep that in mind when I'm reading them.
Yeah, I mean, they don't connect or contradict anything.
Nogri. Han recognizes a Nogri
in Honor Among Thieves.
Continuity error in Honor Among Thieves.
And that's the only piece of continuity.
I personally, and people could disagree with me, it's okay. I don't consider season 6 of Filoni's Clone Wars canon because it was released after the buyout happened. I don't consider any of that canon. Like that D Squad, the Jar Jar Mace Windu team up. What else happened? Oh, Yoda's weird dream where he fights Sidious.
That was a thing. I vaguely remember that airing on TV back when I was younger, and I was so fucking confused as to what the hell was going on until the end when they revealed, oh, it was all a dream sequence and it's Palpatine and Dooku talking or something.
That's when Bane showed up, right? As like the
that's part of that
armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not Bane.
And he's voiced by Mark Hamill.
Oh yeah, that's right. He is. I always forget that. It's like how Savage Press is voiced by Clancy Brown.
But really, like the episode, to go back quickly, the episode where Yoda fights Palpatine, I had no idea what was going on until the end because I legitimately would have believed that it's real. Like, I didn't immediately think, oh, this has to be like a dream sequence or something. We had Dooku versus Anakin and Obi-Wan. We had Obi-Wan versus Grievous. Like, it was possible to just be real.
It was dumb enough. Liam Neeson's in those episodes too as Qui-Gon,
Obviously.
because he'll come back for Qui-Gon in anything.
I mean, he's only doing like old man action movies now that no one is watching.
Well, yeah. Yeah, his straight to Netflix, not even straight to Netflix, straight to Redbox action movies. He's become Charles Bronson. He's a modern Charles Bronson. His Taken movies, those are just Death Wish movies without the blood. They're the same.
But with a lot worse editing.
A lot worse edit. Oh yeah, the 15 cuts of him climbing over a fence in Taken 3. I did his showing up as Qui-Gon at the end of the Obi-Wan series, and they put a fake beard on him and a wig. Well, I mean, he wore a wig the whole time he played Qui-Gon in Phantom Menace, but at least the facial hair was his own facial hair in Phantom Menace. It's not in the Obi-Wan series. He's like, he says a couple lines and he walks away. It's so bad. I had totally forgotten about him in Obi-Wan. We were talking Obi-Wan before the show started, because initially I wanted to do a Legends podcast on the Obi-Wan series, but there wasn't enough to talk about. And after I got labeled a toxic fan for Noah and I making fun of the Book of Boba Fett, which deserved all of the making fun of it. Max was like, I was gone. Past 10 minutes. 10 minutes anything. No, we're basically done with the collecting.
No,
Yep.
we're just rambling about things we don't like at this point.
Yeah,
It's
as
just
always.
a Legends podcast. But I like the whole thing. I want to get into this actually right now. When did the timeline get wrecked? And who do we blame for the timeline getting wrecked? We can't just blame Dave Filoni for it. Because I'm almost certain Dave Filoni didn't realize there was a timeline when he made the first season.
I think so. I don't think Dave Filoni is directly at fault for the timeline. I think he is indirectly, because when the Clone Wars movie when it came out was a huge retcon of not just the timeline of like everything we know about the prequel era. And it seems from that point on, it was, oh, we're doing this now, because a bit of spoilers into when we eventually get to what we're reading. I finished the 2 Force Unleashed novelizations recently, and those also, again, which came out 2008 and 2010, around the same time that TCW was just getting started, basically completely retconned the formation of the Rebel Alliance and caused a whole bunch. And in Force Unleashed 2's case, caused a whole bunch of continuity problems for the entire movies. And again, that's Dave Filoni, to my knowledge, had no kind of creative license or was not involved in that project at all. But
no, that was a Hayden Blackman project.
But it is a thing that came out around that time, after, to put this simply, I don't think. Well, Dave Filoni does retcon things and does a lot to screw the timeline. I think a lot of it isn't directly his fault, but he kind of opened the door for that to be the norm, is what I would say.
Troy Denning.
I knew you were going to say it. Yeah, Troy Denning also. I mean, like, they just basically said, oh, the post-Jedi Council, the post-Jedi, Luke's Jedi Order, oh, they're now on Coruscant.
Yep.
Why?
Instead of Ossus, which was set up at the end of New Jedi Order. Basically, everything that was set up by the end of New Jedi Order, fuck it. All the character development, who cares? And then Troy did a remake of the prequels.
Scott, I'm not a Filoni apologist. I'm pointing out that Filoni was not the only one doing this.
No, because I for a long time, after reading Karen Miller's Wild Space, which I think is a horrifically terrible book. Where Obi-Wan hears die Jedi, die Jedi, die Jedi for most of the book, and people say that's a good book.
Matt Wilkins says it's a
Matt
great book.
Wilkins, you're full of shit. There, he can find that later and complain about it on Marco Polo. That book's terrible. And like the whole resetting the Clone War, that one, it specifically says, oh, half the Clone Wars happened in 3 months.
Mhm.
But I don't think that was Karen Miller's fault. I think she was told to put that in because
Mhm.
Karen Miller doesn't care enough
Yeah.
to actually. She treated Star Wars like it was fan fiction. She had no respect for the IP.
Mhm.
And it's so clear by Stealth and Siege when she phoned in
Mhm.
those books that there was no caring whatsoever.
Which, I mean, you can kind of apologize in a way because Travis dropped out and Miller had to write 2 books instead of 1. But even then, like, even if Gambit was like Siege and Gambit was 1 book,
See,
it would still suck as a story.
Stealth and Siege.
I love that. I love that. That's just become the meme. But that's what those books are called now.
Yes, Siege and
we've
Gambit.
we've like Mandela affected the title of those books.
But like, I think Karen Travis left at the perfect time.
Mhm.
In some ways, in her own arrogant weirdness, she saw the writing on the wall and pieced out. She did it in the most Karen Travis way humanly possible. But she's like, this isn't my Star Wars anymore, and left. I'm kind of proud of her. Plus, we didn't get any more Republic Commando nonsense. That series just stopped and never got finished.
It stopped at like the
at the worst
Imperial
time.
Commando is so infuriating because it's like, there's why did it have to end there? I know this series is bad, but I still want to know how it ends.
I think in a way, I know on a forum she said,
yeah,
everyone was going to get a happy ending. That's BS.
No, except for I forget his name, but it's like the new clone that's like a new batch that joins like Omega Squad. She says off, Cal kills him because he like tries to betray them or something. I'm just like, oh, okay.
I honestly think she was going to lead up to what caused Children of the Jedi. I think
that's an interesting take.
Well, I mean, that's No Prisoners is a prequel to Children of the Jedi.
Yeah.
As many of the characters that
and the weird thing is that it's a good book. It's probably her best.
Which
is bizarre.
Hard Contact, I think, is her best. I think that's all of her strong points. I mean,
but No Prisoners has Pelion.
What's that?
No Prisoners has Pelion, so it's better.
Those are definitely 1, 2, and the third best book is probably the TCW novelization.
I was going to say interesting. That, yeah.
As terrible as that is to say, that's probably her third best.
I will say that's a solid novelization.
It is. It's such a shame.
There's several chapters before the movie starts, and they're the best chapters.
Right, and all the stuff in the book that isn't in the movie, you're just like, wow, this is really cool and interesting, and it's really dark and gritty. And then like the movie happens, and you're just like, but this is like terrible. Why is this here? Like, I know it's not your fault this is in here, but like, why is this here?
This is a children's movie. I just think it's funny that they made an adult novelization for the TCW movie.
Mm-hmm. It's really dark too, especially like the when like the clones are like basically like trapped and like besieged, and they're getting picked off one by one, and it's like this super gritty like war story of them just trying to survive. And then it's like, and then the next chapter is like Stinky the Hut like pooping and while being like getting a poopy diaper while like Ahsoka is holding her. He's like, oh, ew.
You know what I will say, what I like about her TCW novelization and No Prisoners, you can feel that she really doesn't like Ahsoka's character at all.
Yes.
No, God, no. I don't blame her. Ahsoka's god awful. Like when she was writing, especially when she was writing. You know who saw potential in Ahsoka was Karen Miller.
Mhm.
Ahsoka has all the interesting stuff in Stealth. Was
In
it
Siege and Gambit.
Gambit?
And even I think even Karen Travis, despite her obvious dislike for Ahsoka, she tried to make her a better character.
Yeah, I mean, she's like, Pellion's like, you can't dress like that on my ship.
Hmm.
And so she wears military fatigues.
And
Or
when she
in
sees like Callista and her husband making out, and she's like,
But she-
"Oh, how can you do this?"
But she learns that there are other Jedi.
Mhm.
Although it does get fan fictiony when Anakin shows up and a Callista's looking at Anakin.
Ugh.
That's like the one point where I'm really taken out of that story.
Mhm.
Because No Prisoners, if you're gonna read a Clone Wars tie-in novel, read No Prisoners. It's the best one. It's Rex's perspective for a lot of it, which is really interesting. If Rex is one of those few TCW characters that I think is actually really good. Along with Cad Bane and Hondo. But I think I like Hondo more because in Rebels they made him just a joke character. He's like the best part of Rebels. If you've, I don't think either of you have seen Rebels.
I've seen the first 2 seasons and then I gave up because it wasn't worth it.
Oh, season 3 and 4 are bad.
Yeah, I figured
I
as
got
much.
some enjoyment out of seasons 1 and 2. But once they add Thrawn in, and Thrawn doesn't act like Thrawn, he throws a temper tantrum at one point.
I
Or
saw
there's
that.
another scene where he's doing kung fu with robots.
Mhm.
And his code word is like Rook, because remember the Thrawn trilogy,
Well, Rook
remember the
becomes
Nogri.
Rook's a character in season 4.
Yeah, which just shows like Filoni didn't plan or care. Like to me, that's obvious. Like, oh, he was gonna put in Rook as the code name, like as a cheeky little reference. He wasn't gonna bring in the character, and then
Well,
he
you know
did.
who also shows up at the end of season 4? Pelion.
Yeah, in name gets mentioned.
Well, he talks.
Yeah, I know. He did sound British, right? At least give him that much.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, at least something.
I can't remember. That was the scene where Palpatine was a fake hologram and then turned into regular Palpatine hologram. And the royal guards are fighting Ezra, and they have levitation staffs. That's what their staffs do now, is they levitate people in a force field. I'm not sure what that does. I don't know why you would have that. Does that
Magnino Alex in the comments. Hondo is just Jack Sparrow.
exactly? It's the best part of Rebels. Wherever Hondo, and he has a weird Ugnaught sidekick for some reason in Rebels, and like that's just there. I don't know.
What I'm getting at was skipping Rebels was the best decision I've ever made.
Oh yeah, dude. I will say Rebels was better than season 7 of TCW. Season 7 of TCW was the most infuriating thing I've ever watched. 1/3 of it was to promote Bad Batch, which makes no logical sense why the Kaminoans would keep defective clones.
Because as we remember with Karen Travis books, they murdered him.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
euthanize them.
Yeah.
They euthanize them for less than that.
They euthanize them for being too good at their jobs.
Yeah. But
Um,
I don't know. Okay, I don't know enough about season 7. Please tell me if I'm wrong. There was stuff released before that was going to be in season 7. Obviously, like the Quinlan Voss garbage storyline, which became
The
Dark
Dark
Disciple,
Disciple. Yeah.
the Son of Dathomir, and I think that's it. But
No, there was one more.
there was I know 2 things. Okay, there was a Crisis on Utapau thing with crystals or something, and there was a Boba Fett versus Cat Bane storyline. And I
Yes,
think
that's
they
the big
dropped
one.
both,
What's that?
right? I think they dropped both. Like they never told them in any material, right?
Yeah, so there's alpha rendered cutscenes for those.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And there's an extended talk of Obi-Wan and Anakin talking about Anakin moving on from Ahsoka. That is voiced and stuff, but they never put it in. I think they didn't put the Boba Fett stuff in because they were making Book of Boba Fett and they wanted Cad Bane in it. Dark Disciple, they just didn't feel like doing that. They reference Son of Dathomir, but they don't. It's not in it. Instead, we have the second arc, which is Ahsoka hanging out with a swindling side shave girl and her annoying sister. But they're both annoying. It's just the sister's a little more annoying. And then they uncover that Maul is still Mandalore, I guess. And then Sabine? Is it Sabine? I can't remember. Who's the head of the Mandalorians at the end of
Duchess Satine.
no, her sister. Her sister shows up.
I don't know that.
Because she's now a character in Mandalorian. And Sabine Wren, who's the Mandalorian in Rebels, is mom's with her. So, and they're like, we need your help on Mandalore. And so they get Ahsoka to help them. And then Anakin meets up with Ahsoka and gives her her lightsabers, which are now blue. Because why not? And then she goes and sieges Mandalore with Rex so we can get them out of the way so the Revenge of the Sith can happen. And then that's where all the money went, was for that last arc. Like, they even changed the TCW logo for it. They do a terrible motion capture fight where they actually got Ray Park to be Darth Maul again so he can fight Ahsoka. Which normally I'd be like, I hate this, but Ahsoka survived General Grievous. So, of course, she can survive Maul.
Can we just appreciate for a second how all of this sounds so fan fiction-y? Here's Ahsoka, she fought Grievous, she fought Darth Maul, who's resurrected. Did she fight Dooku at some point?
No, I'm shocked they didn't have that. No, they were too busy having Anakin fight Dooku. Anakin fights Dooku 3 times in TCW, including the movie. He even fights him with Obi-Wan at least once.
This time we're doing it together.
Yeah. Do you remember the Game Boy Advance game Star Wars, The New Droid Army? At the end, you fight Dooku in that.
Oh yeah, and it was revealed it was either a clone or like a force projection like in Dark Empire.
Exactly.
Which is referenced in Yoda Dark Rendezvous, by the way.
Yes. Which proves that Yoda Dark Rendezvous is the perfect book to be added to the Essential Legends collection.
Yeah.
I think it's the strangest book they could put in there. Actually, no, that'd be if they put Star Wars Galaxy's Ruins of Dantooine in the Essential Legends collection. First of all, I'd be ecstatic.
If they put Crystal Star in?
Oh, I love that.
They're going to, because Into the Void is going to be in the next wave.
Oh yeah, Into the Void. That's so strange. Essential Legends.
Hard Contact and Yoda Dark Rendezvous.
Yeah, I'm surprised they still haven't done Splinter of the Mind's Eye. If you're talking essential, like the big, well-known Legends books. But again, that has nothing to do with what they choose. It's just like popularity and what they think will sell.
But why Yoda?
Well, it would have to be
Yoda
popularity.
is always popular?
Yeah, it would have to be popularity because we're 7 waves in. We don't have a single Kevin J. Anderson novel. That was for Matt if he's still watching.
He'll watch again. He will, and he'll talk about it on Marco Polo. Which, Dylan, we need to bring this up, people, because I've invited Dylan to our Marco Polo chat that Noah, Adam, Matt, and I have, but Adam doesn't pay attention to anymore. And Dylan won't come on.
Okay, I have a job where when I walk onto the job site, I am not allowed to take photos or videos of anything. And you add me to join an app that requires me to record myself talking into my phone. I can't. Sorry, I can't use it.
Do it at night. Is it off chance you get Noah in the early morning? He's usually up.
Yeah.
I do it throughout the day because I work from home and I can, but I'm the only one that does it throughout the day. Well, Matt does it too, but it's casual. Come join us. We have all sorts of weird Legends discussions that we can't talk about on here because they involve the expandeduniverse.com. For instance,
Yeah.
what Noah's writing for it.
Yeah, when Matt
If I'll
Wilkins
ever
forces
write
me
it.
to write.
And if I'll ever write an article for the expanded universe. Dylan, you write for the expandeduniverse.com, don't you?
I used to. I don't anymore. I come out of retirement every now and then when I have an idea for something.
Do you remember when you used to write Armada reviews on the Star Wars Reviewers Facebook group?
I did, and like 2 people would like them. You were one of them. Even though you didn't play Armada.
No, I did enjoy. When we were at Gen Con back in 2016, Dylan spent an entire day watching other people play Armada in a tournament.
Yeah.
And it upped his writing prowess for reviewing Armada stuff. If you were in, even if you're not into Armada, if those were still up, they probably are. If you want to join Star Wars Reviewers, I don't know why you would. This is a very dead Facebook group that we're banned from.
Yep.
Noah's not banned from it, but probably guilt by association, you get banned immediately.
Let's make a Smurf.
They used to be so paranoid about fake accounts over there. I don't even know if they'd let you have a fake account. Probably question you. Not like David.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that group?
Yep. We're bringing up all the old references, man.
It's a throwback. Well, it's Legends Never Die.
Yeah.
Including David and the harassing at Dragon Con or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what happened with that.
Yeah, it was like some podcaster and he just kept bugging him of like, hey, and in his defense, he is also on the spectrum, so he probably wasn't getting like the social cues of I don't want to talk to you right now, but he just kept like bugging him about like this thing and handing out the flyers for like his Facebook group, and then like that guy told like another guy, and then it became this huge controversy that Legends fans bother people at conventions.
And then we got accused of threatening someone at Dragon Con when we never went to Dragon Con.
Mm-hmm.
That happened around the same time.
Remember that. I forgot the guy's name, but I remember that.
Oh yeah, because I got banned from his Twitter. I got blocked. We literally were talking. Amelia explained what the stabbing memes are to me because I'm an elderly person and I don't meme too often. It's like how Noah doesn't internet often. It doesn't understand the internet, or how Matt doesn't understand how to get onto a live stream. It takes like an hour for him to get on.
Matt Wilkins can come on a live stream pretty quick when he wants to destroy it, when he wants to bomb it, like he did with mine. I'm having discussions. Suddenly, Matt Wilkins is in the chat, and I send him an invite. He's like, "Let me in," and then I let him in, and he derails the conversation. Speaking of derailing the conversation, your comments are going wild with
I know
conspiracy theories, insulting me.
That's good to insult Noah.
Has anyone seen Noah outside his room? How?
Okay, we're gonna figure out if Noah's a real person and not just Dylan. Also, because I think Dylan.
Why is everyone me? Secretly me? Why is that the conspiracy theory?
Dude, you're probably Kathleen Kennedy too. This is just an elaborate troll. It's like a Scooby-Doo mask. He just reveals he's just Kathleen Kennedy the whole time. Legends podcast is a lie. But no, I'm going to Germany in November. We'll see if Noah ever leaves his house.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, we talked about it probably that I'm gonna go to your place where you're gonna stay instead of
We'll
you
see.
coming here. Maybe we'll figure
We'll
it out.
see, because I'm visiting him whenever we'll all be jet lagged because my family's coming along, my girlfriend. So it's looking more likely I'll come to you, and I
Mhm.
have to learn the Germany transit system. I have to take the train. So I think it's going to be a 3-hour train ride.
Probably. Yeah.
That's going to be wild. That's why Dylan needs to go on Marco Polo. I'll need emotional support from someone who isn't busy on the weekend because Matt will be with his kids.
Sorry, Dylan's body is attached to his couch. Good comments.
I can.
Dylan's body is actually urine.
Do you not see the videos when I'm facing my bookshelf over there?
No, you never do that. You're always on the piss couch.
I do it for Civilized Aged and the EU tournament stuff.
But you know what? Dylan is a centaur, but his bottom half is the piss couch. He's a mythical beast, also known as John Sadler and DAC 303.
No one knows who John Sadler is anymore.
He is John Sadler. They
Someone
know who
needs-
he is. He's you. I'm gonna make a shirt. When people get
Okay.
me to 500 subscribers, and I will do a limited run T-shirt.
Okay, I have a question for the chat. Chat, how many of you know who Eric Geller is?
There's gonna be no response. Someone please create a Wikipedia page for the piss couch.
Make sure to tag the
Scott does. Okay, Scott does. Scott's been around here long enough. Who? Yeah,
The piss
exactly.
couch will be referenced in supernatural encounters.
Eric Geller was around at this the Eric Geller era was around when John Sadler was still active. Boomer knowledge. Oh man, I'm such a boomer. I've been in this since 2014. That was 8 years ago.
We've been in the trenches for a long time.
If Dylan sells the couch, ban him from the Discord.
I'm not going to sell this couch. I'm just going to throw it away when I move out of this apartment.
You better not.
It's an artifact. It's important history.
Dylan, we need to auction it off for Twin Sons money.
Oh yeah, speaking of Twin Sons, we did a stream yesterday where we bought books. So Joe, go check it out. There's like 10 views on it.
Yeah, give it a watch.
Mm.
It's a lot more. It functions better than this one, where I'm just spitting facts and Dylan's denying things.
But seriously, you have to sell it like a charity event. We have people in the chat; they would pay
Who?
for it.
Who is going to buy this?
I will buy it.
In the comments, Jacob Ayers, Cody Sparks, we have Magnino Alex. They all would buy it. I would buy it if I had the money. If you would ship it to Germany.
It's a couch.
Dude, I'll take a barge. I'll go on a fucking barge with the piss couch. No, like, you meet me in France and we'll drive. We'll put it in you have like a smart car, right? We'll tie it to the top.
Then the car isn't gonna drive. The couch is probably heavier than my car.
Noah has the tiniest car I think I've ever seen a human being drive.
Yes, literally a two-seater. 2 people fit in. Thin people, not fatzos.
No. I just want to thank you, Maxwell, for this.
The last item in Chris Nelson's collection.
We need to talk to Joe Bongiorno and change the background of Star Wars Timeline.net so it's the piss couch. Actually, someone in the comments, I need you to design a shirt that has top half Dylan, bottom half piss couch, and it says, "I'm the real John Sadler" on it. I need this made.
Oh, thank you. This is a great. I need Chris Nelson to purchase it and then, with a straight face, do a promo video on it.
You know,
You know-
I wanted to make a documentary about EU fans, but I want to change it to the Piss Couch. A Star Wars Legends podcast documentary.
Oh man. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna change the banner on my YouTube channel to the Piss Couch. I just need a good picture. Dylan, move the camera a bit. Okay, I need the full view. I'm gonna take a screenshot. And I
we
hope I
need to
can put it in.
contort your top half body.
Why?
We need.
Fine, I'll leave, and you can just talk to the piss couch.
No, you have to position the camera a bit. I need a better view of the couch.
Dylan,
Okay.
why is your house a mess? As we look at mine, which is a fucking mess too.
Okay, I took a picture of it. Title it Piss. Saved.
But someone, I need you to draw Dylan as a centaur couch. It says, I'm the real John Sadler. And he's holding quarters. He's got two like bags of quarters.
Hello, Brady Perkins. Welcome. You came in at the best time. Dylan just left. Oh, there he is.
But yeah,
Okay,
Dylan,
I took a
I'm adding to the
screenshot.
shirt that I want. You need to get me to like 500, 600 subscribers, people. Just keep subscribing, and we'll get a limited run T-shirt of Dylan as a centaur couch, holding up 2 bags of quarters, and yelling that he's the real John Sadler.
Quarters. I don't have quarters, but I do have pennies. Anyway, this is so thing I like to collect is coins. So
Get
here's
the
my
Get the
collection.
fuck out of
of
here!
fly-
No, 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 no!
Oh man.
My hackles are raised.
getting
Yeah,
out of
1857
control.
is the oldest one I have actually, but I do have a coin from
Take you and your
1839.
toupee out of here. What are you reading, Dylan?
I haven't started it yet. But I am on the Han Solo Adventures by L. Neil Smith. As I said before, I
What?
recently finished.
What?
The Solo
Sorry,
Adventures by
the
L.D.
Lando,
Smith.
the Lando Calrissian.
I would read
Adventures.
this. Like,
But yes, long day. But I
Okay.
recently finished, as I said earlier, the Force Unleashed duology.
oh,
I read
please,
them.
I need details. Sean, his writing style, please tell me. What do you
It's
think?
interesting.
Is it better than Fatal Alliance?
100% better than Fatal Alliance.
Well, that doesn't take much, but
Okay, so it's really interesting. He is terrible at fight scenes. Maybe it's
Yep.
because I'm used to. I just gotten used to like Lucino and Stover and even Denning amongst all his bad things. He can write a pretty damn good like actual sword fight. But like it's weird reading a novelization, and I talked about this on the Twinston stream yesterday, where it's like because that it's an action game, and it's an action game with a lot of boss battles, right? So it's weird getting to like the Ram Koda fight, and then in 3 pages it's over. But in game, it takes you like 10 to 15 minutes to beat him, and like all of the fights are like that, like where it's just you get to the fight and you're just like, oh, that's it, it's over.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And it's not just the sword fighting, it's also the blaster fight. It all reads like he just wrote what he saw on screen.
Hmm.
And it has this like weird fan fiction-y feeling of like
Yeah.
he doesn't really know what to do, like how to write this stuff.
The one saving grace
bizarre.
for it was that it's told from both Starkiller and Juno Eclipse's perspective, and I felt the Juno parts where it's just her POV and her thoughts and what's going on were fascinating. I enjoyed
Oh, yeah.
those parts,
but the rest of it, because I don't like Starkiller, I don't find his character that interesting, and again, I don't like how much of a wrench it took to the already shattered Rebellion continuity that those two novels had. But Juno was great. I enjoyed Juno, and I joined her perspective on things.
Yeah, she's the best part of Force Unleashed 2, the book. Because
Mhm.
if that was like a novella or something just focused on her working for the Rebel Alliance, it would be so much better. Because
Mhm.
the Starkiller story is such garbage in
Yes.
that book.
Oh yeah. Well, they made Force Unleashed to make a game engine. That was Force Unleashed's point.
But at least it had the facade of a story
Mhm.
that tries to do something. And then
But
you
it's
have
bad.
yeah,
a
it's bad,
bad
but it tries to do something. But then you have Force Unleashed 2, which is like, oh my god, our game was successful. We have to make a sequel. Oh shit, we killed the main character. We bring in a clone. What is the story? He wants his girlfriend back, so
Mhm.
he's gonna look for her, and that's
But
the
is
story.
he a clone? We don't know. He's a clone. But
Yeah.
they gaslight you all throughout the movie. It's like, I don't know, maybe he's not a clone. They keep saying he's not a clone. But no, he's a clone. Stop.
Mhm.
And again, it's the same problem I think with as we talked about Karen Travis's The Clone Wars novel. Is I feel bad for Sean Williams because it's not his fault that the story he's bad. He's just writing the novelization of an already bad story, and I can tell he's trying to do his best. That's what the Juno parts are, but he's just not as good at executing it as Karen Travis was with the Clone Wars, mainly because the pacing and the action scenes are for a game that's supposed to be an action like adventure, an action game, an action fighting like boss battle game. It's really lacking in that when it comes to the when reading it.
I have a theory here. It's so dumb. It might be as dumb as when I said Ray is Shmi. The Ray is Shmi theory that turned out to actually be a fan theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's on this level. Force Unleashed 3. The reason Starkiller has visions of Juno in Force Unleashed 2 is because Starkiller's OG Starkiller, his spirit is in new Starkiller.
Like
But he's also
Palpatine.
cloned still. It's like in Kingdom Hearts with Sora and Roxas as the nobody of Sora. You know that would have been a thing.
Oh, another thing. This pissed me off about the first one, which they got right in the second one, was that, and you've talked about this, Jeremy, when someone stands toe to toe with Darth Vader when they shouldn't, and that's Starkiller at the end, because Starkiller basically, I'm okay with Starkiller beating Vader because he is much more powerful in the Force as Vader. But Vader is a far superior duelist in every aspect. And in the first novel, he beats Vader with his dueling skills, which completely took me out of it. It's like, no, there's no way Starkiller. And in the second one, it's almost like Sean Williams realized his mistake, because the second one, when he escapes, he's like, the Starkiller clones realize, oh, I can't beat him in a sword fight. He's better than me than anything else. The only thing I can do is like force lightning, because that's his one weakness, and that's how he escapes, and that's how he beats him at the beginning and the end of it. But in the first one, it's like, no, I just like got past your guard because I'm a better sword. Like, no, you are not a better swordsman than Vader. Vader is the king of that era of swordplay.
Is it as bad though as Ferris Olin holding his own against Vader?
No, because I guess because Starkiller is at least trained in combat, and that's like his main thing is combat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still.
Or Ahsoka fighting Vader.
Oh God!
I know that's a new canon. I think Ahsoka's the most OP. Ahsoka's Kruk.
And you're doing a disservice to Kukruk. Leave Kukruk alone. He's awesome.
But Filoni thinks that Ahsoka is the best thing that's ever happened to Star Wars.
And he had to save her with time travel.
Yes. Even though in season 2 it's clear that she's wandering around by herself at the end and survived. Dave Filoni contradicted himself. What a shock!
It's like in Bad Batch, which when is Bad Batch set? Is it like a couple of months after Revenge
It's
of the
during Order 66.
Oh, okay, because I remember this. It has Tarkin in it, and he looks like New Hope Tarkin,
Yes.
which he doesn't do in TCW, which takes place like 2 weeks earlier.
Yes.
He aged differently.
Well, then he goes to looking like a Mars Attack alien in Rebels.
Oh god. Yeah, and then he looks like a CGI recreation of a human being in Rogue One, and then he looks like Peter Cushing.
That's how Tarkin's age. You know. They also have weird old man six-pack abs and get in knife fights.
Oh yeah.
What is it
But
with
that
canon
was a
making-
dream sequence that Tarkin had in a comic.
Why is the Disney canon trying to make Tarkin into this big thing and a sex symbol?
That Peter Cushing
Because
is
they-
a handsome man.
This is they're because they're eventually going to bring Dala into canon, and they want to make that like they want to make it look like Tarkin is actually a desirable person to be with, to make that actually make a little more sense than it did in Legends.
Oh man. I'm convinced at first, like 2015-ish, they wanted Tarkin to be the new Thrawn before they
Yeah,
brought Thrawn
and-
back.
And they wanted Admiral Ray Sloan to be the new Dala.
Yeah.
But they did nothing with Ray Sloan.
Mhm.
I mean, she was in like 5 books.
What is the fifth? I know she's in the Aftermath trilogy, but she was introduced in New Dawn by Miller.
She's
What
in
else is she?
Phasma.
Oh, okay.
She's referenced in Phasma.
Isn't she also in the Battlefront game?
Yeah, because she's in the Battle of Jakku.
Yeah.
Which is going on in the last Aftermath book. The most boring of the Aftermath books.
Maxwell, is it true that Darla slept with Tarkin? Yes.
Yes.
It's also
She also
explored a
slept
little
with
bit
Boba
more. Later, she also slept with Boba Fett. She slept with this guy who worked for the terrorist in Planet of Twilight. She slept with Admiral Buatu, the Boffin. She's also a furry, obviously. And
Hey, she's in good company with Jansen. Once Jansen banged a Both and Requiem for her Rogue.
oh man,
No, Corrin did a Salonian.
yeah, the famous
confirmed.
chapter.
Yeah, that's confirmed in I think like Wedge's Gamble. I think.
Yeah, he talks about it for like 10 pages and how he got an STD because of it.
I mean,
Because
Luke
he's
changed his
giving
cell
Gavin
phone.
Darklighter a little kid like romance.
Oh yeah,
advice.
because Gavin had a relationship with what's her name? It was on another Bothan that was on.
Mhm.
Her name started with an A. I remember.
Okay, I want to digress here into I'll call it a Tristan topic.
Mhm.
What Star Wars species are acceptable to bang?
Why?
I want to make this clear because Tristan loves his Twi'leks, as do I. I'd bang a Twi'lek if I were.
So would
know.
George Lucas, as we know.
Yeah, exactly. So Twi'leks, Zeltrons, that's acceptable.
If you want to break it down, the ones that are humanoid. Would you fuck a tree? Would you fuck Tira Sar from Republic?
What?
Yeah. What have I done?
The only acceptable answer is whatever species Waru is.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's Luke.
Yaddle?
Barris's race? Well, if you go by
Pauline's,
the
I guess?
approaching storm, Barris and Luminara are humans, not Meridians, I
yeah.
think.
What?
Yeah, that was weird.
Are they really?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
the approaching storm, Ellen Dean Foster writes it like Barris
Mhm.
thinks of herself as like human, and he describes her as like humans, but they are not. Like it's a extremely close but a different species. They do have like greenish skin, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Vong is the true answer. Okay. You're just weird.
I mean, New Jedi Order, it does say the female Vong are attractive.
What about Chiss? That's kind of. They don't have pupils though. I don't know. That would weird me out. I'm just saying.
Maxwell, your question, I actually have an answer, and I hate myself for it. Has a human ever slept with a Wookiee in Legends or canon? Well, as you remember, in Legacy of the Force, Invincible, the famous novel by Troy Denning, he implies that Han Solo had a threesome before. And chances are high Chewie was involved in some way or another. And Chewie flirts with some human girls in Han Solo and the Lost Legacy while he was married and had a child. So yeah, Chewie is up to something.
Trandoshan.
It's Doshin?
Oh Lord, we haven't even gotten to what Noah's reading. Noah, what are you reading?
I'm reading the Legacy comics again for my reviews. I'm at Claws of the Dragon.
Awesome.
Ooh.
That's a good arc.
Yeah.
As for me, I just finished Jedi Apprentice Book 2, The Dark Rival. I wanted to talk about this because I recently read Jedi The Dark Side, that weird comic series that is about Qui-Gon and Xanatos. I much prefer how Jude Watson handled the Xanatos backstory in Dark Rival. Dylan's not read it, I don't think.
No.
Throughout, like, every chapter in Dark Rival opens with a little bit about Xanatos and Qui-Gon, building up to what happens to him. But the comic adds all sorts of stuff in it, like towels in there for reasons. I don't think Jude Watson ever established that Towel was involved in Xanatos and Qui-Gon's last mission in Jedi Apprentice, right, Noah?
No?
I didn't think
I only
so.
vaguely remember the comic.
But in the comic, they Towel's in it for whatever reason.
And I talked about this. Yeah, I talked about this with Matt Wilkins. Wouldn't it have been awesome if you got like actual like a Jude Watson to write the comic backstory? Because to me, it comes across like they were trying to set up a bigger comic storyline of
Yes.
Qui-Gon adventures before Jedi Apprentice.
Mhm.
Because it's obviously it ends open, the Jedi the Dark Side. But apparently it didn't sell well.
No, yeah, because Dark Horse was falling apart. They were shitting the bed with Star Wars. They couldn't, even when they had a good story, they couldn't market it properly.
Yeah.
And Legacy 2 is pretty good. They couldn't market it properly.
Mm-hmm.
They ruined all their good series.
Knights of the Old Republic
They ruined
ended
that.
well with 50, and then we got War.
Which War isn't a bad story, but it's not great.
And it's confusing because we had Legacy ending on issue 50 with the story open-ended, and then War was like to finish it off.
Mhm.
And then I got to KOTOR, and I was expecting the exact same thing. 50 is an open ending, and KOTOR War is like the big final stuff. Nope, it's just a random extra story.
Yeah, it's an extra story about how he gets involved in the war for some reason. Even though the whole series he's like avoiding the war and wants no part in it.
But he
Yeah,
got
but he's
drafted at the airport,
Yeah.
okay?
And then there's Jedi defecting to the Mandalorians.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the big thing. But it's not a big thing. Also, I may not be remembering this properly. Does Revan even show up in the KOTOR comics?
Yes, he gets small cameos, and we get a backstory of how he got the mask, and he had this vision of
You're right,
Mandalorians
yeah.
killing people. We get more of Malek's backstory, which is great.
Yes.
By the way
Yeah,
it's
because
done.
he shows up. He actually meets Zane and the gang several times.
Yeah,
He's like a
because they
reoccurring
meet him on
character.
Flashpoint.
Yeah.
He decides to get extra tortured for what's her face, so she
Jareel?
won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I didn't catch on till much later that was actually Malek. They were the same character, Malek.
You mean near the end when he got when he's bald, he got the tattoos, and he calls himself Captain Malek.
I never
And his
got
real name
KOTOR to work on my computer when I was reading the KOTOR comic, so I knew barely anything about KOTOR.
Okay, and this I find funny. His real name is Alec, and then his alias is Malek. Genius. No one is gonna suspect
Well,
anything.
that's John Jackson Miller having a laugh because KOTOR's a comedy series.
because his real name is Alex Squint Generissimo or something stupid like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, and quick to answer the chat. Alex, I'm gonna read Hand of Thrawn 45's Sword of the Jedi fanfiction at some point. I may even start this weekend, but I have to read Legacy, finish it, review it. That's the important thing, and then I will get to the fanfiction.
But yeah, anyway, I think that's it. I think we're finally done.
Yeah, unless there's some big Star Wars news we have forgotten about.
Well, the Ahsoka series is coming out.
When?
I don't know. I think they finished filming it. I don't care enough. I know the Cassian Andor show came out and none of us have seen it.
Oh, I think I saw they casted like an actual actor for grown-up Ezra. I was gonna say Ezra Miller, Ezra Bridger, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Looks fine. Whatever.
Which means we're gonna get Thrawn live action.
We'll get live action Thrawn. We'll get live action Sabine, live action Ezra, and personally, I think there's a flashback with Maul too. Like, because I think Ray Park was in the Maul paint again. But that was a while ago. I don't know what that was about. I personally just don't get why we have Ahsoka still.
Because Filoni is in charge and she's a popular character that everybody loves. So now she's in everything. She's in Tales of the Jedi.
Well, yeah, we have to get baby Ahsoka.
We can play
story.
We can play this game. If it was imagine it's 2012 and I tell you all of the stuff that has happened since. Hey, the sequels are gonna be a remake of a mishmash of Dark Empire and the Jedi Prince books. Ken Palpatine is now a female, and she is the true chosen one. And then I tell you, oh, we're gonna get an Ahsoka show. She's gonna show up in everything. She's gonna fight Darth Maul. She's gonna be the main character of Tales of the Jedi. You would fucking call me crazy. And people accept all of this.
We don't.
Yeah, but
Star Wars fans are dumb. I've been saying this for a long time. We're all neurotic weirdos, but like the Disney fans, I don't know why they accept what they accept.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, it's just...
I mean, we are fanatics. Like, I love the expanded universe. I fucking hate a lot of it. Like the Denningverse, obviously. But it's so weird. The people who don't criticize the stuff they love.
They just accept all of it. It's so weird. And to me, I honestly, the only time Star Wars has ever really gotten TV down, Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars.
I mean, you're forgetting the holiday special and droids and Ewoks.
I don't think droids and Ewoks are good. especially Droids. Droids is a particularly painful to watch.
Yeah.
If Anthony Daniels wasn't voicing C-3PO, it would be unwatchable. The Ewoks is not good. The Ewok movies aren't particularly good. I appreciate what they are. They are neat. They are a neat time capsule of history. It's one of the last times I think the stop motion was used, like unironically.
Hmm.
They're really well-made TV movies, but I wouldn't consider them good.
And for some reason, they played in cinemas.
Well, one played in cinemas in the UK. Not in the US.
Which one, the first or the second?
The first.
Oh, because the second one played in German cinemas.
Really?
Yeah, for some reason.
The second one's where they got the budget cut.
Did you know that the Ewok movies were originally gonna be set in like 200 or 300 years after Return of the Jedi? And then Leland Shee said, "Oh, we decided against it because something with Wicked."
Well, so isn't Warwick Davis wicked in those too?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what I thought. Because he mentions it in his book for like one paragraph.
Hmm.
And that's it.
By the way, this has to be a topic in the next stream. Randy Stradley, on the one hand, and Leland Shee on the other. Because in my Discord, we have come to the conclusion Leland Shee was beyond useless. And I'm not even sure if he's still alive. Have we actually seen Leland Shee anywhere in the last couple of years?
No, we hadn't seen Leland Shee since he made a post saying that, yeah, I'm still in the story group. Like, but that was like that was like when Last Jedi came out, right, Dylan? You remember that?
Yeah. I actually, again, I had the chance of, I was able to meet Leland Shee in 2015, and he seemed like a very, like, shy person that is the kind to, like, not want to ruffle feathers, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking random,
and was genuinely excited at the time that there were new movies. This was pre-TFA, by the way.
At the time, he was excited.
Yeah, because this is when you met Alan Dean Foster, right?
Yes.
When Alan Dean Foster was excited before he got real pissed at Disney.
Oh my god, I wish there was like footage of him being excited. Because I imagine putting it side by side with like the interview he did. Where he talked about how terrible Disney is and the movies are.
I was actually at this panel too. It was the 2015 celebration. Del Rey had some panel. It was like the Del Rey panel, and they started the panel, and they after 10 minutes of talking, they opened it up, 30 minutes of talking, they opened up to questions. And the first person they called up asked "Hey, can I write the novelization to The Force Awakens?" And it's and they kind of back and forth with them. And then he sits up and walks onto the screen, and it's Alan Dean Foster that they were talking to. It was a really fun moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was that. It was really cool to be a part of. Oh wow, that's such a great idea. But I'm almost certain that exists on YouTube somewhere.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing.
I remember us talking about that when it happened.
I just remember the story being that they didn't know who Alan Dean Foster was when they hired him. I didn't know this was like a public event.
Okay, so I think at that time he had already been contracted to write it. That wasn't a spur of the moment thing. They already knew he was planning on writing it. He had already probably submitted drafts or whatever, but he was at Celebration. He had been invited to Celebration to be one of the authors there already. So they had just hey, we know you're going to be writing this book, so we're going to plant you in the crowd, and then we're just going to have this bit, and then you're going to come on stage and do this. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But I think both of those stories are correct, that they didn't know who he was, and then they got him on, and then they did the bit at Celebration, I think is what happened.
And then they realized, oh, this is the guy who wrote the first Star Wars book.
Yeah.
That's genius.
Well, Del Rey knew, because it was the Del Rey panel.
Mm-hmm.
Going back
to you guys heard his his ideas for episode 9, his treatment.
I just know what he said about his Force Awakens novelization, what they forced him to cut out, and I know he wrote a fan fiction-y screenplay thing.
Yeah, with where Rey was a cyborg
Hmm.
and didn't know it, and that's why she could communicate with droids, because that irritated the shit out of him. It's like, why does she understand R2D2 and BB-8?
And he was trying to think logically when writing the Force Awakens novelization. He was like,
yeah,
okay, there's probably going to be a romance between these characters, and he wanted to explain Starkiller Base because it's a fucking retarded concept, more or less. That's what he said.
It made no sense, is what
Yeah.
it literally, when he got what they described it as, he said, this makes no sense how this would even work. And so he like literally went and studied black holes and stuff, and like went all interstellar on it, and like tried to figure out how, because it goes into detail on how Starkiller Base works. It's the best part of the book.
This honestly makes me kind of want to reread his novelization of Force Unleashed, Force Awakens, just to see how hard he tries to save it.
It's so interesting having read so many novelizations. I feel so bad sometimes because it's like I can tell you are trying so hard to make this work, but it's just not going to work. I'm so sorry. The script you were given was terrible.
Well, the thing is, a great novelization writer will be able to write around it. David Morrell's Rambo books, the Rambo sequels, are so much better than the films. Like, it takes a certain type of author to really understand and be able to write around a bad script. And Alan Dean Foster, he's written so many of them. Not all of his novelizations are great, I'm not saying that, but sometimes he really can nail down a screenplay and what needs to be there and what he can add to it to make it work better. Like his novelization for Alien is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. His novelization for The Thing?
I've never read that because it's really hard to find in the US.
It's good.
I mean, I like the Force Awakens novel. The only thing I don't like is he kind of gave up while writing it, and the last, from Han Solo's death to the end, is 10 pages.
Really?
Yeah, it's really short.
Oh, now I have to reread it.
Unlike The Rise of Skywalker, where they claimed that it was an expanded edition and it was just as long as The Force Awakens. But that had stupid crap like Leia doing a no-hand handstand. And that's the big one. Oh, that she like talked to Yoda through the Force, I think, is in that, and she talks to Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Okay, why would she talk to Yoda and Obi-Wan? I understand Anakin, but why the other two?
Because that's dumb. And because Yoda showed up as a Force ghost in Last Jedi. Which, what I always wondered, that was a problem I had with Last Jedi. I know why they chose Yoda. It was to surprise Mark Hamill because he was fucking miserable making that movie. And they wanted he and Frank Oz became really good friends during Empire. There's a great scene in the making of where like Frank Oz shows up on set and they have the Yoda puppet and stuff, and that's adorable, but like, I don't know. I always thought it should have been Anakin. I think that would have worked better.
And get some prequel fan service in there with Hayden.
But they weren't good at J.J. Abrams, and Rian Johnson would have never allowed that.
Yeah.
Especially J.J. Abrams wouldn't have allowed that because prequels can't exist.
Yeah. Instead, we got a shitty-looking Yoda puppet. Which
not as shitty as the Phantom Menace Yoda puppet.
I was actually gonna say, is it better or worse? Because I'm legitimately not sure.
It's better. Not by much, but it's better.
I'm not sure.
They're both really bad.
Yeah, but
They're both half-assed.
I don't know. The one in Last Jedi looks like a replica you would sell at a store, if that makes sense.
Yes. But the Yoda one in Phantom Menace just looks weird. Looks
It
wrong.
does look weird. I think it's because they try to make him look somewhat younger, which is strange because he's 900 anyway, and 20 years is nothing for him.
That's why they CG'd over in the re-release.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. Rise of Skywalker's novelization's horrible. Last
I've heard
Jedi's novelization also horrible. And that's by Jason Fry. And it's still bad. It's a terrible rock paper scissors scene with Rose and Finn.
actually, like,
Yeah, but they have Star Wars names for things.
Jesus. Okay.
That's in there. There's a whole weird dream sequence in the beginning where Luke's married to Cammy.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this because
He
people
never
were
left
theorizing. Because people back then were like, "Oh my god, is this gonna make Mara Jade canon? He had a wife, she died." Blah blah blah.
No. No, I remember that. And then Shannon McRandall was mad because it wasn't Mara. Do you remember that, Dylan?
She
Mhm.
should have been happy
Just
that it
like,
wasn't her.
she's just, I don't know. Shannon McRandall is a unique human being. I like her. I think she's funny.
Yeah.
And she's been really appreciative of like twin sons and stuff. I don't know. I like that she stayed a little vocal during the Disney era.
Yeah.
Instead of most people who went silent because the House of Mouse is gonna destroy their lives.
Yeah, like Ewan McGregor
Hmm.
said nothing until they gave him a show. Or Hayden Christensen.
Mm-hmm.
Or like any of the prequel people.
I mean, Mark Hamill tried to warn us. There's a 30-minute compilation clip of a compilation of all the times he was like, "Well, you see," and then he went back.
If
up
I
at
say
once,
if I say any more, they're gonna cut off my head and throw it right in my face.
oh,
That's my
and that
favorite quote of his.
no, my favorite quote is when he goes on that like it's not a good where he goes on that speech where he's like talking at like stuff like arena where it's like it's not important if it's a good story, it's important if it makes money, and then he goes
Oh,
on
yeah.
and flat out for a while and he's like, and I just realized that this is being recorded and like he stopped like wait
Doesn't he even compare it to the Transformers movies?
yeah
That's fucking savage.
And like Harrison Ford didn't care.
Yeah, I mean they dragged him out of bed to film a scene in episode 9. You know, when he's drunk
Oh,
and
yeah, I
he's
was
a
shocked he
ghost and
was
he
there.
talks to Kylo and he's unshaven, like he looks like shit.
Well, yeah, because he was getting ready to film Call of the Wild.
Is that the reason he wasn't clean shaven? Because he
think
was filming
so.
it. I
They didn't
legitimately
want
was
to see his
thinking,
face. They didn't want to do the Henry Cavill mustache CG, remember? Like they did in the Justice League reshoots. But
I
yeah,
just imagined he just refused, like just out of principle. I'm not gonna shave for this.
no, God no. I'm so worried about the new Indiana Jones movie.
It's gonna suck.
Oh yeah, it's going to be bad.
when is it coming out, because he only signed on to do Force Awakens on the stipulation that they would make an Indiana Jones movie. It's been like
supposed to come out
7
next year.
years.
Oh, Pixies joined us.
Oh yes.
Oh, this reminds me. Someone leaked the trailer for Indy 5. There's one shot in it. It looks like Indy is like flying in the Millennium Falcon. I think it's like a bomber or something from the real world, but it looks like the Millennium Falcon cockpit.
I don't know.
Do you want to see the picture? I have it right here.
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can.
It's supposed to come out next year, but they haven't released a title for it yet. What are you doing?
Ah, there it is. It's small, but maybe you can see something.
Oh, that is peculiar. Huh. Weird. I don't know. Anyway, I think I need to call it there. The girlfriend called.
And your cat is running amok in the background.
Oh, they've been feral. It's feral girl hour. They've been chasing each other this whole time. I'm surprised you haven't heard all the
Pull up the
crashing.
cat and put it in the thumbnail. That'll get us like 3 times the views.
Oh,
Now she's
yeah,
behind the desk.
Pixie. Pixie's a butthead. If I try to pet her, she's gonna swat me. It's like having a spicy meatball for a pet. And then the other one just climbs up everything. The other one muted me for several minutes while I tried to figure out what
Oh,
she
that's
did.
what it was.
Yeah, she muted me.
Vic-
She climbed on the soundboard.
That was almost as good as that one podcast when we were wrapping up, and then I was thanking our wonderful sponsor Comcast, and then my internet cut out.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That sounds great.
I don't have Comcast anymore.
I'm surprised my internet hasn't crashed yet.
It's a well, because we aren't filming the Dune podcast.
Mhm.
It especially does it every time we do the Dune podcast.
Maybe it's a sign. Who knows?
Yeah. I was thinking that while we were reviewing Dune Messiah. Like, maybe we shouldn't. We'll see. Well, there's the other one. No. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. I have to wrangle some cats. I'll see you guys later.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.